welcome everybody to episode 4. In case you didn't notice, Andy and I are recording this all in one night, so we have not. But this has been a pretty fun night to do this. So we've covered everything ranging from how to get your box organized, to build some basic decks, to building some more advanced decks. And so now we want to talk about some demo decks that the PC has put together, how to find other people to play with, and then online tools like Gemp you can use to play for free. So I think the first thing we're going to look at is the demo decks from the PC, which are available free to print out. So do we kind of want to look at those a little bit, Andy?
Yep, sure. So, I think the last video that we put up about this was kind of going over some dual decks, some deck database, taking your random cards that you had been throwing together to make, 30, 40, 45 card decks into something more thematic and play against each other that, well. This is something that the Players Committee kind of put out that is a resource. These are demo decks. So one of the things that happened when Decipher, which is the company that printed Star Wars CCG in the 90s, when they lost the license from Lucasfilm, was they allowed the game to kind of continue on in perpetuity so long as the cards were, virtual cards, which are, you print them out, you cut them out of paper, and you slide them over, real cards that correspond to, a card that's like a card name printed on the virtual slip, so that you could continue to have, new cards and grow the game that way. And one of the things that the PC did is they created these demo decks, which if you go to, I'm going to share my screen here really quick, and I'll show you where you can go to find them and kind of give a little bit of an overview of them. So bear with me 1 second here. All right, so here on the PC's website, which is starwarsccg.org, this is the main landing page. There's a couple of really great resources right on the first page, which is there's this section for new players. So if you click in here, it'll kind of go over what we were doing in this video series, linking you to different groups. But there's also this download the player demo decks. If you don't want to kind of go in through this way, back on the main page, you can just click on demo decks. And this will give you a long history of card selection, what cards do, how to play them, different, kind of strategies for this game. I mean, there's a lot to read there. But if you just want to get right to it, if you click this first link, it'll take you to a PDF that you can save. All the cards are highlighted in red. And you can basically just print this PDF out and cut these cards out, and you slide them over, like this escape pod would slide over a real escape pod. I mean, if you're playing just at your kitchen table, I don't think it really matters. You can just print this out and put them on 2 different sets of 60 cards, light side and dark side. So this is a Tatooine themed deck, and these are like virtual cards. So like Decipher never printed Count Dooku or Asajj Ventress. Like these characters didn't come into Star Wars canon until years after Decipher had lost the license. But then it has cards that Decipher did print, which is, Darth Vader with lightsaber and stuff. So this is a good way to play some more higher level games that have a lot more strategy and depth to them. And these decks are designed to be played, relatively against each other. This one for light side plays on Cloud City. So you got a Tatooine deck, you got a Cloud City deck, and you get some choices. Do you go attack your opponent on Cloud City, or do you go defend Tatooine instead? So there's, 2 decks that are, well designed against each other. And there's some phases of the game, how to play, game aids for these. So definitely want to probably check this out as an option, as these cards are all essentially free to print and play. So, at this point, if you've been following this series, you've gone from, you found a random box at your parents' house or in your attic to, you're playing with some virtual cards, you're playing with, dual decks and higher level strategies. So, rather than force your kids or your significant other or your gaming buddy who wants to, move on to Gloomhaven, into always playing this game, which, it's a great game. I definitely recommend continuing to play it. Maybe you want to branch out and find some other people. So, where do you go to do that? And back on the PC's website, if you go up to the top, there's forums, which will take you to, the main UBB blast from the past 2003. But up here under the welcome section, there's a new player info, which has a lot of things about, what you would need to know for being a new or returning player. But there's also a player locator. And if you click in here, if you're in Europe or the rest of the world, click on this link. If you're in the US and Canada, click on this link. And what it'll do is it'll bring up for the US and Canada, it'll bring up a map. That's an interactive map. And, I'm in the Philadelphia area. Matt's down in Washington. There's 8 people in the Philadelphia area, and it'll give you an approximation. So like Jared Napolitano, who's the marketing advocate, lives near me. There's somebody down here in Center City. There's some people out here in New Jersey, like Chris Gogolin runs the PC's web store. If you are out here, you got, Scott Lingrell, who's the main advocate for the game. Maybe you're in New York or you're in Chicago or Dallas or whatever, and you can kind of scroll in and find people that are around you to play with. And then, you've got their names. You can search by location. So there's about 300 people that are listed for US and Canada. And then Europe and the rest of the world has something similar. Theirs isn't as interactive as a map as much as it is just a running list of people by country.
But Andy, I just wanted to jump in here, and this is one of my favorite things about this game is it is very grassroots, right? And if you want to start a group, like this map is only as good as the data that people put in. Like, if you're getting into this game, then add yourself to this list and continue to build the community. This isn't like Magic or Pokemon where there's millions of players, but you absolutely can start your own play group. You absolutely, you can. That's what I've done in the DC area, and we gather once a month and get some in-person play. So, don't be discouraged if you don't see anyone in your area. Just co-opt your Magic friends. They're all ready to move on. Trust me. So,
if you look like within, obviously I'm in the Northeast here, so there's lots of people up in this area. But within like an hour and a half to 2-hour drive from me, there's probably a good 30 or 35 people in my area that potentially could be an opponent to play against. Obviously if you live in like, up here in the Idaho, Nevada, Utah border, there's probably not really that many people there, and you might have to drive to Salt Lake City. But, it really depends on where you live, but you can see there's people that play kind of all over the place. 43 people in the Midwest, California's got a bunch of people, South's got a bunch of people, middle of the country's got a bunch of people. So there's communities all over the place. And really at this point, I think you're only kind of branching out to try and maybe play against 1 or 2 other people, just to kind of see what it's like to play against somebody other than, your kids or your gaming buddy or your significant other.
Yeah.
So, but let's say what happens if you do live in the, out by Yellowstone and there's just nobody out here to play against? What resources do you have? And that's just, if you go to Gemp, it's a online platform for playing. You register. You have to have up to a 12-character name and then a password, and you can log in and play. Over here on the bottom right is everybody that's signed in currently. Here's people who are waiting to play. Couple people want to play open, which is like everything. These are people who are playing, who's playing what side. If you wanted to take a look and see this Dark Deal 44 versus Dr. Torch Death Star 2 game. It's a private game, actually. So we'll do Party McFly versus Steve G. You can click watch game, and it's a online version of the game. It's rules enforced. Your options are highlighted for you, like this highlighted because he's doing something with this card. It's really a great way to actually just play the game online. You can test everything out. All the cards are free to play with. You don't, if you want to play a deck that has 15 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights that are $300 a piece, great. You just saved yourself $4,500 in real cost of putting 15 Luke Skywalker Jedi Knights in a deck.
The other thing I'll say about Gemp, and I think that the format can be a little daunting at first, but one of the things is it's a really great way of learning all those rules that you never really got completely.
Sure.
So
yeah,
I think
rather than read through the 275-page advanced rule book, if you're really gonna be interested in the game that much, that you're gonna be playing that often, I recommend actually sitting down and reading through all 275 pages. You don't have to do it all in one sitting, but break it into smaller parts and really learn the rules of the game. But Gemp is rules enforced, and so there's maybe a few bugs here and there that get reported and fixed, but as far as playing the game, it's going to really teach you how to play the game as well. You may lose a bunch of games right at the start, because like I said in an earlier video, it's a deceptively easy game that gets much more complex as you get more and more cards and more rules involved with it. But, those are really the two great ways that I think you can play the game, either in person, finding people in your area. And you can do that also through all the different social media platforms. Yep. So like Facebook, Discord, Twitter, Instagram, etc., or online through Gemp. And really, I would just recommend doing both. As great as Gemp is to play online, the convenience of it, you can play it on mobile. I play on my phone a lot. You can play it on an iPad.
We'll say it's hard to play on the phone.
It's a little bit difficult to play on the phone. The buttons are very tiny, but on a phone. But you can play it on your computer. There's a convenience factor to it, but it's also nice to get out there and shuffle up a real deck. And I think at the end of the day, that was kind of the main point of this video series, was to take you from finding a random box of cards to playing the game, to building decks, to finding other people to play and other avenues of how to play it. So, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, Matt, on.
Yeah, no, I think one thing I realized we didn't really hit on too much are virtual cards, which, real quickly. So there was 12 sets Decipher printed. And then after that, the PC, which is the governing body, continued to print virtual cards, which are usually things you can put on at home and slips you can put in the front. So pretty easy to add those on, and they kind of add flavor to the meta. So those are all also programmed into Gemp. So easy things to kind of look at. There's a master sheet. I think that's a bigger topic to kind of discuss when you're at that point to kind of change up the meta. But I think we're going to do one more video after this one and kind of explore maybe virtual cards, alternative formats, things like cubes, other kind of fun, crazy ideas that you can do. So I think we'll save that for video 5. But I think we've covered a lot of ground in this series, and hopefully this can help some folks, figure out what to do with their collections. And maybe we'll also hit a little bit on collecting, in video 5. That might be kind of good to do.
Sure.
So I hope everyone's enjoyed the series so far. Andy, thank you for being a champion and talking 97% of the time. So you
All
made
good.
my job so much easier. I just get to sit here and look at it and listen. So,
Sure.
so thanks everybody, and we'll see you for our final video. Let's call it the Chaos episode 5, Chaos.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks.